2015, Nintendo launched a brand new game called Splatoon. After being a new Nintendo IP in over 14 years and receiving very well scores, Splatoon established a solid fan base by becoming one of the most unique shooter games in a long time. Now 2 years later, Nintendo has released Splatoon 2, but can we call this game a definitive sequel to the original, or is it just a glorified port? First up is the single player. The single player is fairly similar to the first Splatoon with around the same number of levels and playtime. However, new changes definitely help to make it more enjoyable. You can now use many different types of weapons in the single player, from the chargers, rollers, and even the new Splat dualies. Playing throughout the single player with these additional weapons can really help you to get a grasp of the weapon types that you might never try out. Personally, I'm not much of a charger player, but after playing with it in single player, I definitely have learned some tips on how to use it, so that if I ever need to, I could. The story in the single player is also similar to the first Splatoon, with the great Zapfish that powers Inkopolis missing because of the Octarians. Even though the single player may be a bit short, the levels are all still uniquely designed and reward you for your exploration. Without a doubt, Splatoon 2's core is its multiplayer, but is it good? Personally, I feel like Nintendo servers in general have been fine with Splatoon 2, and so I almost never had any communication errors. All of the multiplayer modes are present from the first game and still follow their basic concepts. Turf War is the iconic battle to cover the most turf with the ink of your color in 3 minutes. Ranked modes also return and were a lot of fun in the original. All of the modes are there, starting with Splat Zones. It's still the same chaotic fight for control of an area, however now there's an indicator that displays how much of a zone is controlled. Tower control is also the same, and you need to work together with your team to make sure that you can move a tower on rails to the enemy base. The addition of checkpoints really helps out this mode because now the tower will pause at the checkpoints to give an enemy team a chance to counter. Rainmaker is also back with a fight to snatch the Rainmaker and bring the weapon to the enemy base, but the Rainmaker weapon's attack has also been modified in Splatoon 2. It no longer launches a gigantic ink tornado, but a fairly large ball of ink that travels in an arc and blasts upon impact. All of these changes definitely help to make all the multiplayer modes lots of fun, and they're especially fun on all of the amazingly designed new stages. Some old stages also return from the previous Splatoon and have all been modified, such as having ink sponges in Port Mackerel or ink rails in Moray Towers. Another thing that's great about the multiplayer is the ability system. In the original Splatoon, we learned how certain brands had a better chance of getting certain abilities, but your chances of getting good abilities were left to luck by getting a good roll from Spike, and in many cases, people chose certain clothing depending on the abilities and not for how they look. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, I care about how I look in the game, and I also want to make sure that I have good abilities as well. Thankfully, that is now possible in Splatoon 2 with a new character named Merch. He will be able to scrub your abilities and return them to you as ability chunks, and once you have enough ability chunks, you can manually choose to add whatever sub-abilities you want to whatever gear. The worst part of the multiplayer, however, is how you cannot switch out your weapons within the main lobby. Now, while some people think that you should be able to switch them with every death, I don't think that that's necessary. However, after a match is over and when people are waiting in the lobby, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to switch out your weapons and gear. They added this feature in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I don't know why Splatoon 2 still refuses to do it. The worst thing that can happen while you're playing multiplayer is finding an awesome lobby to play in and then having to leave it just because you want to switch out your weapon. While all of the single player and multiplayer are hours of fun, of course there are new weapons that have been added into Splatoon 2. The good news is that almost, if not all, of the weapons from the previous Splatoon are in Splatoon 2. So if your favorite weapon was the Aero spray in the original, you won't have to worry about finding a similar alternative, as it's also in Splatoon 2. There are also new sub-weapons that have been added to balance some of the old ones from the original Splatoon. The Disruptor in the original wasn't a very good sub-weapon, and so it has been replaced with the Toxic Mist sub-weapon. It creates a misty area that covers part of the stage, slowing down and disrupting enemies inside its radius. Seekers were a bit too powerful in the original Splatoon because of the long distance that they would travel, along with how they would hone in on enemies and even turn in the directions they went. Seekers have been removed in Splatoon 2, and both of its functions have been split into two new sub-weapons. The Curling Bomb is the type of sub-weapon which will leave a trail of ink behind and also bounce off walls, and the Auto Bomb is a small little bomb that will walk towards an enemy and then detonate. As for the special weapons in Splatoon 2, they're all brand new, and I'm a big fan of all of them. From honing missiles to getting into a giant hamster ball and climbing up walls, Splatoon 2 has some great special weapons. The thing that I liked most about the special weapons in this game is that all of the special weapons are helpers and not game changers. Now what I mean by that is all of the special weapons in this game are balanced with pros and cons, and so it doesn't feel like one is much more superior than the other. Every special weapon in Splatoon 2 will help out your team in some way, but none of them feel like they're game changers like some of the ones in the original Splatoon. For example, one of the superior special weapons in the original Splatoon was the Ink Strike, which would launch a gigantic ink tornado anywhere on the map. In a mode like Splat Zones, the battle wouldn't even consist of trying to control the zones, but rather just having people launch multiple ink strikes back and forth onto the zone, as in most cases, one ink strike was enough to make the opposing side lose control. And so with that, I'm very pleased with the new special weapons that are in Splatoon 2. Now, one thing that isn't returning from the original Splatoon in Splatoon 2 is a local multiplayer mode. Even in the original Splatoon, there was a local multiplayer option where you could play against a friend locally on the same console to pop the most balloons. The Switch is clearly more powerful than the Wii U, and so it would have been nice to have a mode where you and some other friends could play online all from the same console. And even if the Switch isn't powerful enough to get 60 FPS in a 4-player split screen, I'm fairly certain that it should be accomplished with 2 players. There are many times where friends come over my house, and it's a shame that I can't play together with them if we all want to play Splatoon 2, and it will just be a rotation of everyone getting the Pro Controller and getting a chance to play a few matches online. However, there is a new mode in Splatoon 2 known as Salmon Run, and it's a lot of fun. It's a horde mode where you and 3 other people have to work together to beat a whole bunch of salmonoid bosses and monsters that come in waves. You also need to collect a certain number of eggs before the wave ends, all within the time limit. There are a lot of factors and it's a lot of fun. The best part that I think about Salmon Run is taking out the enemies, because in most horde modes, all you have to do is keep shooting and hitting the enemies as much as you can to kill them. But in Salmon Run, each boss has a unique way of taking it out, and simply trying to hit them wherever won't be enough. From hitting them from behind or throwing bombs whenever there's an opening, Salmon Run is a very fun cooperative mode in Splatoon 2. All in all, Splatoon 2 is a fantastic game with a bright future. It still keeps the same colorful, unique appearance from the original, but with many improvements, balancing some of the weapons, modifying ranked modes, along with amazing new stages, a fun single player, and Salmon Run. Splatoon 2 is a must-have for any Nintendo Switch owner. Whether you were never able to play the original for the first time on Wii U, or never thought you'd be interested, Splatoon 2 is a very fun game that can easily become addicting and will continue to be one of the best online multiplayer games on the Nintendo Switch. So there you go guys, that is my review for Splatoon 2. Definitely be sure to click that like button if you guys enjoyed this video, and also comment down below on other things that you have to say about Splatoon 2. Definitely let me know what you guys think of the game and what are your thoughts on it and how you feel about it. I'm always curious to see what you guys have to say. If you're new to this channel, then please be sure to subscribe. I've got a lot of cool Nintendo content coming, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero if you want to tweet me something or ask me something. I'm always able to reply to everyone on Twitter, so definitely go and follow me there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.